All right, folks, greetings. My name is Will Moss. I am the CEO of HBCU Connect. And this evening or this afternoon, depending on where you are logged in from, we are introducing Deloitte and the Cloud Engineering team. So super excited to hear from the speakers and panelists from Deloitte that have volunteered their time to share their opportunities and their experiences with you. And super excited about getting started. But what I like to do first is give you a little bit of background on myself, and then I'm going to go over the agenda, and then I'm going to introduce our next and first speaker. But a little bit about myself. My name is Will Monson, the CEO of HBCU Connect. We've been around since 1999. If this is your first time engaging with us and participating in one of our virtual events, welcome. We've been doing recruitment events for at least 10 years now. A lot of what we do is online. We run and manage the largest network of HBCU students and graduates on the planet. And we have a partnership for many years now, actually, with Deloitte. And more recently, that partnership has developed and flourished into them not only doing recruitment with us online, but also Deloitte has started to do some recruitment events with us, through this medium here. So we recently had an event in January. Lots of folks have got interviewed from that event and were hired from that event. So you are in the right place at the right time. So this is your opportunity to learn more, to take notes, to update your resume, and get ready to apply for the opportunities. But then also ask questions and engage, because the folks here on the call are here for you, to answer your questions, to inspire you, to give you some background and insight into the opportunities with this particular team. So like I said, you're in the right place at the right time, so definitely take advantage. All right, so that's the opportunity for you all here. It's a little bit about us and our partnership with Deloitte. So let me go into the agenda and what we're going to cover this evening, right? So of course, I just gave the welcome. We're going to give a cloud engineering introduction with Austin Lyle, who's on the recruitment team with the cloud engineering team within Deloitte. So Austin will give that introduction. He'll also introduce Alex Johansson as well as a part of that intro. Then I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker, who is Malcolm Jackson, who is also an HBCU graduate, and I'm very excited to hear from him and his background and his story as well. After the keynote speaker finishes up, then we will have a panel discussion. And so how that panel discussion is going to work is I'm going to moderate that. And first of all, I'm going to introduce you to all of our panelists, so you have some context on who they are, what they do within Deloitte, and a little bit about their story and how their path to Deloitte. But then also we have some questions prepared to ask our panelists to give you more insight on what it's like to work at Deloitte, the culture, the opportunities. And then I have a few questions that I've lined up for that panel discussion. But even more importantly, we're going to start taking questions from you all in the chat. And maybe if we have time, we might let a few of you get on camera and ask questions as well to our panelists. But we're going to have a live Q&A and get some of your questions answered live. So if you have questions during the event, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll try to record them to be able to ask during that live Q&A so that you all can get the most out of this event. All right. And then after that, we're going to close with next steps. And then it'll be good night. All right. So now let me pass it over to Austin Lau, who's GPS Consulting Lead Cloud Recruiter. So Austin, if you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Will. And again, thank you to all the attendees. Hopefully this is beneficial for everyone through the entire event. But I'm a recruiter with Deloitte. I'm one of our lead cloud recruiters within our GPS division, which is our government division. Who you also hear from is Alex, who is my direct manager within cloud. Shanae, who's a senior manager within cloud. Malcolm Jackson, a cloud specialist executive. And Marianne, who's a lead deployment specialist. So you'll be able to hear from us throughout this entire presentation. All right, so Deloitte overview. Who are we and what do we do? So Deloitte is a international professional services organization. We were founded in 1845, actually in the UK in London, and expanded to the US in about around 1890. So we've been in a business for a long time, over 175 years. We offer a wide range of services that you can see on this slide: tax, consulting, audit assurance, mergers and acquisitions, and then risk and advisory. So specifically, we sit in the consulting practice, even more specific under the core business operations. And what we do there is we offer a wide range of support for clients in both the commercial and government sectors for any of their cloud needs. Now, cloud in particular is split up into about 5 different business units, that being the things you'll see at the bottom of the slide: application modernization, cloud analytics and artificial intelligence, cloud business transformation, cloud infrastructure, and cloud native development. And each of these segments kind of helps us address specific needs for all of our clients. So Deloitte is huge. We're only one subset of the firm. But again, we sit in consulting and we support cloud. Will, if you want to move to the next slide. Great, thank you. And then DE&I. I'm sure everyone knows DE&I is on the forefront of every company's mind nowadays. DE&I is one of our top priorities here at Deloitte and has been over the past few years. Not only do we work with HBCU very closely, but a lot of other organizations to allow us to continue to diversify our organization as a whole. We're committed to DE&I, inclusion, belonging, workforce well-being, and then obviously external impact as well. Just some pretty cool facts about some of our initiatives heading into the years to come. We're looking to target increasing our Black and Hispanic professionals by 50% in the next 3 or 4 years, which is huge, for any of that demographic. We're also committed to making sure all of our diverse members have a feeling of inclusion day in, day out when working at Deloitte. We hold a DE&I lunch and learn or class at least once a week. So again, DE&I is on the forefront of everyone's minds here at Deloitte. And then another big initiative we have is supporting lower minority clients, right? So one of our goals is to spend about $200 million by 2025 on Black-owned businesses, which is just a really cool stat and really shows our commitment to DE&I as a whole. So going off that, I'm going to pass it to Alex, again, who is my direct manager, to speak about more in depth about cloud engineering and what we do here at Deloitte.
Cool, thanks, Austin. So Austin kind of brought you down from Deloitte Global down into where we are in we say GPS, that's our government and public service practice, and specifically the cloud consulting offering. So what we're doing in the government space is building cloud solutions that are shaping the future of government, right? So we help clients by integrating cloud technologies and transforming information. But what we want to do is look for professionals who don't just have the technical cloud skills, but also bring the soft skills with them that allow them to do things like troubleshooting problems for clients, communicating in highly collaborative environments and diverse teams. We want to build innovative solutions, right? Not just deliver technical hands-on keyboard type of work, but it may surprise you how many times we sit in interview debriefs after talking to a series of candidates and talk about soft skills. The piece of the conversation when we're making decisions about hiring people that's technical is very small. It's kind of a quick check the block. Do they have the technical skills? Do they have the certifications? Yes or no? Let's move on to, can we put them in front of a client? So what we're looking for at Deloitte are professionals who we would like and feel comfortable with putting in front of clients and delivering these solutions for us. Let's take it forward. So what we want to know, beyond what we're looking for, is we're interested in what are you seeking from your next employee, right? So what we're going to do is an interactive activity right now. So on your Zoom, if you go up to view options, click there and you can select annotate, text, and list words or phrases. It's going to give you an opportunity to just put on the screen some things that you're seeking out from your next employer. It can be really anything you're thinking about, what looks like a good job to you. We're interested to see what's on your mind now. Mentoring. I'll take a look at the chat too. I see inclusion here in the chat. If you feel more comfortable with the chat, you can use that. But again, you can annotate by going up to the view options at the top of the screen. Flexibility, career development, automation. Cool, now I'm seeing a lot in the chat coming through. The opportunity to utilize my government clearance. That's a big one in the cleared space. I happen to be in the cleared space myself in the past. I come from an Army and NSA background. Growth, opportunities for growth, career development. I think we're seeing a lot of the same common themes here in like learning, growth, career development, mentorship, mentoring, impact and appreciation are good ones. Learning new technologies. Cool, I really like the theme here because I'll say this, we're a career-focused organization where growth, development, and advancement are part of the culture at Deloitte. We are not a butts and seats contract kind of government organization where sometimes companies get focused on the contracts that they support. They want you for fitting a labor category and that's all. But what I'm seeing in the themes here are, you know, upskilling, flexibility, growth and progress, really consistent. Love to see it, and thank you for the participation.
Sorry about that, I was muted. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Austin. Appreciate the introduction, and thanks to our candidates. So now let me introduce our keynote speaker, and let me clean up this annotation. All right, so let me introduce our keynote speaker, who is Malcolm Jackson. And Malcolm is also a proud graduate of an HBCU, Jackson State University, whose football team is on fire thanks to Deion Sanders. So Malcolm, I'll allow you to introduce yourself, your title, what you do at Deloitte.
Yeah, no, thank you, Will. Yeah, you mentioned my old school, and you know, I'm an HBCU grad, and my son is as well. My son's a Howard grad, so I've been in, you know, HBCUs in my DNA. Love HBCUs, and so I'm really excited to be here today to just kind of. This is just a conversation. I thought I'd start by just kind of. You see my my bio here, but I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of talk about my career and then I've got a couple of points I want to make, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So I'll talk a little bit about careers and some things to consider, and then we're going to hold off a few minutes at the end to for questions. I'm actually looking at my watch because they told me I can only go 15 minutes, so I'm going to make sure I keep us on time here. So a little bit about me. I'm with Deloitte, as they said, specialist executive. What I do is I'm really involved with executives in the federal government. So when I say executives in the federal government, I'm talking about C-level folks. So as an example, last night I had dinner with the Chief Information Officer for the Department of Energy. I interact with a lot of CIOs and CFOs and things of that nature. And that's really because my background kind of lends itself to that, what I've done over my career. So I've been working for many years. I'm on the other end of the spectrum versus where you are. You guys are looking at how do you launch your career? What do you do? What's the things you should be looking at? And I'm going to talk a little about those things as well. I'm more on the side of I'm looking to land my career where after there's some news to mute. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah. So I'm looking at where do I land my career. So a little bit about how I started out. Maybe what I think I'll do is just talk at high level overview. I've been working for 40 plus years. I've been in 3 professions, primarily IT, but I started off in engineering, designing oil wells for offshore rigs down in the Gulf of Mexico. And that kind of gave me my entry into technology. When I started in corporate America, corporate America looks very different than what it is or looks like today. As an example, there were no PCs in corporate America when I started working. So imagine if you had to, anything you wanted to do, you really had to get up and go talk to people. There were no emails, no networks, none of that stuff existed. And what I found is one of the things that really helped me from a career perspective is being open-minded and really open to change. And that is one of the things that led me into technology. Technology was at that time, it wasn't as big of a thing as it is today. So I kind of entered into technology because I had a very strong business background in a particular functional area, and the technology group wanted me to help them better understand that business area. So that lended itself to me having an opportunity to join a technology organization. From that, from working in oil and gas, I went to defense. I was working in the defense industry. That was really my first entry into technology. It was PCs, it was mainframes. From there, I went into work for consumer packaged goods companies, developing big ERP systems. And from there, I actually left technology and went into marketing. So I was a marketing manager for a while, leading what I call trade marketing, so in-store marketing. When you think about when you go in a grocery store and you see all those displays and you think about coupons and television, I ran a program like that. And you would ask, how did I go from technology into that? That key word I mentioned earlier is about change. I was presented with an opportunity where I was joining a business group that needed someone that had a technology background, and I just kind of fit that background. I was open to leaving technology, not afraid to taking on a new challenge, not afraid to going into something that I knew not a lot about, but I really trusted myself in what I knew and how I really thought. And one other point is I had support by leadership to doing that. It gave me a great opportunity to go off and be on the business side. I was part of a cross-functional business team that was responsible for launching consumer product goods. So as an example, the things you may have heard of, I was working for Quaker Oats. We were launching fruit and oatmeal bars, we were launching rice cakes, we were doing all kinds of things. But I learned so much about marketing and sales that transitioned into what I was doing later on. After that, I ended up going into pharmaceuticals, back into IT. I did a stint with a agriculture company where I was the CIO of their animal science division. And then I went to work for a health insurance company where I ran all of technology for their core systems and a number of their businesses. Now, over time, these were really big jobs. I was going from being an individual contributor to actually leading large teams that had global experience or global responsibility. I'm traveling the world, deploying ERPs all around the world. You're talking about going places I've never been before, but getting experiences that were, let's just put it this way, adding new tools to my toolkit that would help advance me and grow me as an individual. And at this point in my career, I've been working for 25, 30 years, and around 2009, President Obama was elected. When he was elected, he was putting together his team, and he tapped me to be the CIO of EPA. So some of the things I was doing during that time was, if you can remember the BP oil spill, I had all systems during the BP oil spill. I had all systems during the Japan tsunami. And you can't imagine the pressure or all of the stress that's involved when you're making decisions that are communicating radiation levels in this country at a time where people are afraid about radiation levels and the impact that it's going to have. So now that I'm at Deloitte, one of the things I find is, as I said earlier, I have a lot of involvement where I engage with CIOs. That's because I was a CIO both on the commercial side as well as on the federal side. I understand what it's like to sit in that seat. So one of my biggest roles is building relationships with CIOs, really helping them understand how do they solve very difficult problems. Those problems may be technology problems. Those problems may be budget problems in the sense of trying to solve something where they have restricted funding and helping them work through what those things might look like. Now within Deloitte, I'll tell you, I came to Deloitte because the biggest things that interested me here was their commitment toward African Americans, people of color, and small businesses. This is one of the areas that I really have a passion for, and I'm working to really help grow and strengthen our position. So when I was asked to speak at this event, I was more than open to it and really wanted to be a part of it and seeing how I can help communicate or bring along the knowledge of Deloitte, or my experience and what it means within Deloitte. If I were you, I have like 5 tips that I want to leave you with, then we're going to open it up for questions. If I were you looking at where am I going and what am I going to be doing, there's lots of things to look at, but probably in my mind, one of the biggest things is, what does leadership support mean? And what is leadership mindset around their commitment toward diversity, DE&I, as well as some of the other things that may be important to you. The other thing is, I want to make sure that you have a contact at some level within that organization, because going into any organization, you don't want to go into that organization by yourself. You want to make sure that you know some people there, and those people are in your corner and helping you kind of work your way through that organization. Because as one of the things you heard that Alex mentioned is, we are a big organization. He didn't give the number, but I think globally we're over 400,000 employees. So that kind of gives you the scale or size that we are. The third thing is, I'd want to work on things that are interesting, that challenge me, because it's going to help you grow. And even though what I've learned is the things that has helped me grow the most have been probably the most difficult jobs that I've had, that really stretched me and made me really think of things and work through things and really exercise every muscle that I had in my body. And then the fourth thing, and I saw it on the board that people put there, and it's really true, is around career advancement. You want an organization that's going to be able to develop you and enable you to grow in so many different ways. Deloitte, we're so large, we cover so many different areas, and this is an organization that really will stretch you and enable you to grow and give you that career advancement. And then the fifth thing and I also saw this one on is a mentor. I can't stress enough about the importance of having a mentor, and actually having more than one mentor, because you get different perspectives by having different mentors out there. I've had multiple mentors, some looked like me, some didn't look like me, but that I was able to learn and grow, and they stretched me. And that's one of the bits of advice I would have you. And then I'm gonna throw a sixth one out there, and that's just for fun, and that's around fun. Look for fun, have some fun in what you do. I mean, I have a lot of fun in my job. I enjoy the people I work with. I actually like the people I work with. And I can't say that has always been the case, but Deloitte is a place that you can have a lot of fun. So think about that as well. With that, Will, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I'm sorry. One last thing I want to do is I want to touch on this last little piece. You see this slide in front of you. This is the slide that really talks about a normal career progression. Talks about as you come into an organization where you're leading yourself, you're an individual contributor, and then you move toward leading others, and then you lead managers and functions and organizations. I can personally say that this has been my career path. I've gone from leading myself to leading large organizations. I mean, thousands of people are reporting to me that had global scale. Now, I chose to go all the way to the end being a CIO. That was because I like challenges, and I love being able to work and solve big problems and working and leading large organizations. I am now at leading a self. I'm an individual contributor, because that is the phase or place I am in my career. Each one of you have to decide where you want to be and where you're most comfortable on this continuum that you have here. It's okay to stay at leading yourself as long as you're continuing to grow, adding value and having fun. Or if you want to move down that line, you all have to find your own comfort zone and then settle in on what that might look like. And I'm telling you, if you do this and you do it in the right way, you can have a wonderful career. With that, Will, I'm going to turn it back over to you and open it up for questions.
Awesome. So to our candidates, if you have questions for Malcolm, we've got a little bit of time left before we go into our panel discussion, where I can try to sneak some questions in to Malcolm. But Malcolm, let me start by getting a little bit more into your background and your path to Deloitte. So first of all, you went to Jackson State University. What was your major in undergrad at Jackson State?
It was business.
Business. And then how did you end up working at Deloitte? Like, how did you get your foot in the door?
You know, it's really funny. It's funny you asked that. You know, you had everyone put in their LinkedIn profiles out there. Mm-hmm. Deloitte contacted me through LinkedIn and said they wanted to have a conversation with me. I actually knew a number of the partners there, senior partners, and I I was with a competitor, so they had to be somewhat cautious, if you will. And because I was with a competitor, it was an interesting recruitment, but it happened very quickly for me. And I would also say that because I'm in DC or in the DC area, and because I was a federal CIO, a lot of people already knew me in this area, and I think that kind of helped in the whole recruitment process.
And so, talking about your current role, what is a day in a life like for you right now in your role?
Oh my, yeah. So that's interesting. So we really focus. If you think about Deloitte, we build systems, we build capabilities. We solve problems for the federal government. So a classic thing would be modernization of a service that American citizens may use. Pick a service. It could be something that is simple as requesting your Social Security update. You're requesting Social Security services that you receive. And a lot of that has been the federal government spends $90 billion a year on technology, and 80 to 85% of that is on just keeping a plug in the wall. And their biggest challenge is, how do they modernize those systems in a way where they don't break anything and keep everything flowing? And what they're up against is the Amazons of the world, the Microsofts of the world. So people are using Amazon every day. So they said, I want that customer experience when I interact with the federal government. So in my role, I'm working very closely with federal CIOs, talking to them about ways in which they can solve difficult problems. Classic example is cybersecurity. So the White House just issued earlier this year a mandate that said all the federal agencies have to meet a certain cyber standard. So how do they meet that standard when the White House gave them that mandate, but they gave them no funding? So I helped them think through creative ways on how they can solve that. I actually will steer them back toward the products and services that we offer. I work with ways, I work internally helping my Deloitte colleagues to understand what's it like to be in the seat of a federal employee or a federal executive. And they present a lot of approaches. Like, for instance, I even write white papers. So I have white papers on different topics that I put out. And most recently, I started doing blogs around, this is just what I'm thinking about cyber, or what I'm thinking about artificial intelligence or machine learning, anything of that nature, modernization of technology.
Awesome. So, okay, so we've got a couple of questions that I was able to notate to ask Malcolm before we go into our panel discussion. And one is from Cassandra Freer Taylor. And that question is, does Malcolm think that Deloitte leans more heavily on depth of skills and perspectives, or range of skills?
It's interesting. We are, there's a place for both at Deloitte. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I was giving a presentation. I was meeting with a federal agency talking about edge computing just last week. And this was, I won't go into the agency, but in that particular case, I was bringing in subject matter experts who were experts in 5G, experts in edge computing, experts in AI. But then other cases, I may want someone that has a more broader set of skills. We're large enough that there's room for both at Deloitte. So depending upon what you want to be, like for instance, me, and I have to speak about myself, I'm a generalist. I love to tell people I'm a general manager, or have been a general manager across many technologies. When I started in this world, it was the key punch cards. And there's no way I can stay on top of all the technology, but I have to know enough about technology. So I'm not one that's 1 inch deep, like 50 miles wide. And I can talk about a lot of different technologies, but then I need that person who can go a mile deep from time to time. So again, it depends.
Excellent, excellent. So now we'll have some more time to our candidates. We'll have some more time for Q&A at the latter part of the event for all of our panelists. But before I let Malcolm go and get into our panels, Malcolm, I want to ask you, what is it that you like most about working for Deloitte?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's the commitment from leadership to their people. I can't tell you, so I've worked a lot of places, and what I've seen at Deloitte is there is a very strong commitment to people, to our employees, to what's of interest to them, what's impacting them. I can't tell you, I've had so many meetings with a variety of level of people at the highest level at Deloitte. And oh, by the way, I mean, I've worked at a lot of places. I mean, when I said I was in the Obama administration, I mean, I've been in the Oval Office with President Obama, one-on-one having conversations. And he's someone that was very interested in people too. But in this particular case, I've never seen such a large organization that's just committed to its employees and helping them grow and helping them be successful. To me, that's really important. And that's probably the biggest thing that I would say I like about Deloitte as a firm.
Awesome. And I can attest to that. We've actually done in-person events with Deloitte. And when they invited their employees to the event, we did an event in Atlanta. There were almost as many HBCU grads as employees at the event that worked for Deloitte already, as we had in attendance, which was great. So Malcolm, let me thank you for being our keynote, and I'll ask you to hang on for our panel discussion after I've introduced the remaining panelists, if that's okay. All right, so the next person I'd like to introduce to speak is Shanae. Shanae, if you're ready.
Yep, I'm here.
I'd like to go ahead and introduce you. So we have Shanae Sanders, who's with Deloitte. So Shanae, if you could give your title, and then I have your slide up and you can go right into it.
So hi, everyone. I'm Shanae Saunders. I'm a senior manager at Deloitte, and I've actually been here for 11 years. So got some longevity and give some culture conversations. But the focus for right now is just to talk about like one of the examples. And so there's a wide variety of different cases, different projects, different programs that we've done, especially in the cloud space. But one of the things that one of the projects I want to bring to your attention is this large world-class network that we're building for a university, and just figured that this is something that's pretty cool, pretty neat, because there's multiple impacts, right? So we all know that colleges are hugely a part of their communities and usually provide some impactful needs for the growth of the future of how the career world is going to look. And so this university happens to be in the middle of a city and is responsible for about just around $8 billion worth of the economy in that city. And therefore, they're trying to make sure that they have the best impact for their community, but then also for their students. And so needs to do an upgrade of their environment. They're recognizing that they were older and needed to update their entire network, and put out a proposal to ask for everyone to respond, and for multiple different companies to respond and to partner with them. And I think that's a huge part of the difference in what this is, right? It's a partnership with this university to make sure that we're architecting something, an environment and a WAN and everything that can last and go into the future, but then also that we're going to continue to make sure that we're providing the best service, not only for that city, not only for that university, but also for the students as well. And so the complexity of this required that there needed to be 99.9% uptime. Everyone, that's like literally 0.1% less than 100. So it means that it can't go down, right? We know the capacity of what students usually require of internet right now, especially if you're on there trying to do homework, if you're trying to test labs, if you're trying to just connect to classes. But then on top of that, then there's just the scrolling and social networking and things. So the amount of bandwidth that's needed, pretty high. There's about over 280 buildings that they had to make sure that this was connected to. And then there's also about 60,000 or so users that were going to be supported at the same time. So, right, just those are just three of the major factors that are included into this solution that had to be considered. So we took a two-phase approach, right? The first one was focusing on making sure that there was a high-quality network and making sure that design was architected and planned for the implementation. And then the second part was just making sure that there was some the lower implementations, right? So making sure that we're doing both sides of the coin, and we brought the full gamut to the table, right? There's security, there's networking, there's the design work, there was architects, making sure that everything's reliable, scalable, and have high performance. And so this is one of the projects that I think just kind of shows the depth and breadth of what we could do, especially in the cloud space. And we partnered with them, right? They're now just consider us in some ways just a part of the team, right? Because we've been sitting here just providing them, working with them, showing them how to do it, implementing it, and then making sure that the quality is superb all around the board. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Alex to introduce our panel.
Hey, hi again, everyone. And I'll go into this a little bit. So who I am at Deloitte is I'm a GPS talent manager. I work in the recruiting space and support our core business operations. The cloud engineering team is one of the teams I lead. The core technology operations team is another. But I've been at Deloitte 4 years, and this isn't what I always do. So reading this question right now, I think I can speak to this pretty well, because one way that people feel comfortable and part of a team in our culture is that you're able to define your own career here. For myself, the reason I joined Deloitte was because of the culture of a career organization. I was military, and when I got out of the Army, I went to a defense contract in Texas and learned that I was basically just a labor category filling a billet on a contract. The contract was going away, and so were we. So I took another contract. I moved from Texas to Fort Meade, Maryland, and I was sort of just another billet in a seat there. And it was there at Fort Meade, Maryland, that I moved into our program management and talent organization to support staffing of contracts. But what we were doing there was basically filling the billets on the contract and getting people to support the government. There was no culture that transcended the contracts themselves. When I came to Deloitte, it was the first place I came where I didn't have to ask permission for everything I did. I was able to build out what I wanted to do. When my first few months here, I asked permission for everything. And my leaders were just saying, yes, 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 just go do it. And it not only made me feel welcome and included as part of a common overall Deloitte culture, but it enabled me to build out everything I do. And DE&I recruiting is a big piece of that, to include the veteran space. So I've been able to define my own career here, and that meant everything to me. And I think it's something that we enjoy as recruiters speaking to candidates about, because we're really looking for talented individuals and then trying to find a home for them at Deloitte, rather than reacting to government contracts and filling those spots with people who fit exact labor category specifications. So that's one big component of how our common culture gives everyone the opportunity to feel welcome and part of the team. But another big piece of that is that we have a culture of courage. And by courage, I mean you are encouraged to be courageous about the way you speak and bring your authentic self to work. And what I mean by that is that we truly want to hear what you think and what you have to say. It's not a place where you come and you have to sort of speak to the things that you're already hearing on those teams. Bringing a diverse set of opinions and a diverse perspective improve all the teams that we work on. It's expected. During COVID, we were expected to be authentic about the fact that we knew we were all in our houses, and it doesn't matter if you have a kid running through the background or a dog barking. We stopped apologizing for those things really soon. So the authenticity of that is something that becomes cultural, not just as an organization, but at your individual team level and the individual employee level. That was something that mattered to me about Deloitte's culture.
Love it, love it. Okay, so we've heard from Shanae, we've heard from Alex. But Shanae, let me circle back to you
Sure.
for this particular slide and this question. The question is, what are key trends or issues at the forefront of your clients' minds?
Yep. So you name it, they're thinking about it right now. So my clients tend to be either the C-suite or just below it. And so they're still having problems actually migrating to the cloud, getting their cloud environments, their multi-cloud environments even set up, figuring out how to decide which applications to move there, which R they're going to use to move it to the cloud, whether it's refactor, replatform, rehost, whatever it's going to be. They're asking all those questions. What's the strategy? How much money do we need to do it? Is it really cheaper in the cloud? How do I make sure that that when I'm doing the migration, I'm not overexpending when I do move to the cloud, and that doesn't cost me more, all the way to, okay, now how do I retire the systems that are now on-prem? How do I make sure that my work environment allows us to be able to be mobile and stay mobile, or have this hybrid environment that's going on, so that I can have the employees that want to be in the workplace, but those that want to be at home can work just as well. They're asking all those questions for what the technology needs to be around all of that. So it's soup to nuts. We're doing strategy, we're doing migration, we're doing implementations, and we're doing the operations of it as well. And then of course the decommissions too.
So Shanae, if you would allow me just to give some context to our candidates, where are you
Sure.
from? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Baltimore.
From Baltimore.
Yes.
And where did you go to school, and how did you get into the cloud space?
Sure. So I did not go to HBCU. I went to Drexel University and got into the cloud space. I've been playing with computers since I was 7. Like my parents allowed me to play on a computer, still trying to figure out why, because it was too expensive back then to be playing on computers. But yeah, they let me play. And so it's kind of been a journey. I would start off as a programmer, and then moved into more of an infrastructure space and doing data center migrations, consolidations, and then played around a little bit in the monitoring and logging and monitoring space, and making sure that companies had a better view of how their infrastructure was working, and went to be more proactive. And then I started taking into the federal space, having helping government agencies learn how to assess their IT environment, build a better one, and modernize it. And then that just kind of naturally went into, okay, now they're ready to move to the cloud, so move to the cloud. So that's where I am now.
Did that happen while you were at Deloitte, or how did you get into Deloitte? Like similar to the question I asked.
Another question. Sure. So I started 11 years ago. I was working at a wealth asset management company before then. And so coming in, it was actually Deloitte came in and did an assessment of our IT shop and recognized that our IT shop needed, was doing some specialized things. And it just piqued my interest for who Deloitte was at that point. And then within the time period that they were outsourcing their IT, I also decided to apply and came over. And so most of my career, as far as when I'm talking about like the monitoring and logging, and the IT modernization, and then the cloud stuff, that was all done at Deloitte. Everything else was prior to.
So my favorite question that I want to make sure I ask everyone, and that is, what is it for you personally that you like most about working at Deloitte?
Oh gosh. So I always have a different answer, but it starts with the people. I like Malcolm said, it's fun. I enjoy the people I work with on a regular basis. And I get to have fun not only with the people, but the work I'm doing too. I've jumped around, like as you kind of hear. I've even done some security work at one point too. The firm allows me to jump, and my career path has not been any type of a straight line. It's been a pretty interesting zigzag that I created, but I enjoy it, and every part of it has allowed me to do more fun things that I want to do in a space that's allowing me to grow and test myself.
Awesome. And one last question.
Sure.
At Drexel, did you major in computer science, or?
I did. I majored in information technology. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So thanks, Shanae, for not only answering that question, but giving us some background on yourself and your career. So to our candidates, as we're introducing our different panelists, this is an opportunity for you to get some context so that if you have questions, we're going to have some time for you to ask those questions in the chat, and then I'll propose those questions to the different team members so that we can have a live and interactive session. So up next, let me introduce Marianne Basanta Kumar.
Yes.
Marianne, now, before you jump into your question, if you could give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you're from, your path to Deloitte, and then we'll get into the question.
Sure. Yeah, a little bit about myself. So my name is Marianne Basanta Kumar. So I started at Deloitte about 4 years ago. Started as a practitioner in the consulting space in human capital. So worked on multiple projects on different federal accounts, FDA, VA, CDC, just to share a few accounts. And then kind of decided to go back into the people side of the business, which is our employees. So kind of made that transition into the human resources side. So now I'm in talent, working with the employees, especially the cloud practitioners. Working in that area. So I'm kind of new to my role, little under a year. Totally love what I do. My background is I'm a lawyer by trade. So I've been, just like Shanae kind of said, my path is totally not straight as well, kind of jumped around in my career, but kind of found my home at Deloitte. So really I'm excited to be here and kind of share that experience with you all.
Awesome. So let's get into the question, and I may have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure.
as far as what you do there at Deloitte. But the question is, during your time at Deloitte, how has the firm kept you challenged and created exciting growth opportunities?
Right. So what I could say is I was the captain of my ship, I could say. At Deloitte, you own your career. I was never bored on projects. Deloitte is a project opportunity, so you are able to jump from project to project. So you have endless opportunities. Once a client engagement is kind of complete, you could kind of go into another work stream or kind of go into another account. In addition, Deloitte has multiple training opportunities. We do have kind of a brand new facility in Texas that they do send new hires and experienced hires to kind of advance on their skill sets, and that's called Deloitte University. So we do send our new hires there as well. So I remember recalling going there as a practitioner probably 3 times in my career. So during Deloitte University, it was a series of seminars on, how to manage up, about client services, facilitating, conversations with managers and client work. So Deloitte does have the skill sets to help you kind of, move up in your careers. And that's why I love Deloitte.
So how did you get your foot in the door at Deloitte, or your path?
So when I moved, so I'm fairly kind of new to the DC area. So I kind of just networked and kind of, found a person actually just, at happy hour and kind of, networked that way. And she was like, hey, we're having a recruiting event in human resources and in human capital. I kind of networked and kind of landed an interview blitz and kind of, got into Deloitte that way 4 years ago.
Awesome. And so far in that 4 years, what is it that you like most about working at Deloitte?
I think the culture and the individuals I worked with, everybody's background and story has been different. Coming from the consulting side and then now working with internal folks, I've worked with people from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and it's been unique, you could say.
Excellent, excellent. So now what I like to do, and thank you, Marianne, for that intro, but let me circle back to Alex quickly, because Alex, I don't think I got to dive into your path to Deloitte and sort of a day in the life for you, but can you tell us a little bit about a day in the life for you there at Deloitte?
Sure. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I'm a talent manager, and what I do specifically is I manage several recruiting teams. So my typical day is meeting with our internal clients and learning about their challenges around staffing, right? So what our clients do is they create demands in a system where we manage what we need, and then I interact with our recruiting teams and recruiters, say, hey, here's the list of the types of people we're looking to hire. Here are the demands in the system. I build out strategies around what we call hot skills or profile hires with those leaders, because oftentimes at Deloitte, we're not looking to fill a specific billet, but looking for a skill set overall. For example, like a cloud engineer is someone we're always looking for. I talk to the recruiters about that. I interact with all of our recruiters on an individual basis. So my day is full with a lot of conversations, strategy, and reporting. So those are the things I do, but my passion project on the side is I manage all of the talent tools for GPS recruiters and sourcers. So I'm sort of a nerd for talent tools. I love working with like the folks from the LinkedIn recruiter teams, the clearance jobs, Indeed, and all the various tools that we use to go out and find candidates. I get involved with those teams and talk to our recruiters and sourcers about best practices and usage and things like that too.
Awesome. And then Alex, what is it that you like most about working at Deloitte?
My very favorite thing is being able to define your own role and your career here. It's something that was completely foreign to me. So I got here and asked permission to, for example, one of the DE&I initiatives that I've been heavily involved in is veteran recruiting. Someone came to me with an opportunity to support a relatively heavy lift with a veteran recruiting project. I went to my senior manager and said, hey, can I go do this? Is this possible? And they said, well, yeah, of course, just go do it. And it sort of blew my mind at first. And I've taken off since there and kind of learned how to navigate building out my own career and how to balance things. But that's my very favorite thing about what I do. Because if you're looking to build, grow, advance, or develop and redefine what you're working on, it's not just possible at Deloitte, it's encouraged.
Awesome. Okay, so thanks, Alex, and to our other panelists. So I've asked all of our panelists to turn on their video feed. I took down the slides. Now let's have some real talk. Okay, so this is going to be our opportunity to have a discussion. So I'm going to kick off the discussion. I've got at least one question for each of our panelists, including Austin, who's on the recruitment team as well. So I have at least one question for each panelist. But to our candidates, I'm going to ask that you drop your questions in the chat, and then I'm going to start integrating your questions that I see in the chat with my questions so that we can try to get some of your questions answered as well. And we'll have about roughly 30 minutes to do this live Q&A and panel discussion with the folks here from Deloitte. Okay, so let me circle back to Malcolm, our keynote speaker. Malcolm, I'm going to ask this first question to you, and that is, what makes Deloitte different from other companies you may have worked for in the past?
A couple things. One is it's just a diversity of things you can do. When you look at, we shared with you the range of areas we're in, from audit to legal to consulting to advisory, cyber. There's so many different things you can do that you could do at Deloitte, and you'll never get bored. So I think that from my perspective, the ability to do so many things and grow in so many different areas and ways is just unique for Deloitte, and for you as an individual, you will never get bored. So you think about the work that we do. We work with so many different government agencies or state, local, or even on the commercial side. We do things from consumer packaged goods to transportation to just from a functional area. And then within those, there's so many things you can do from a technology perspective. So that's the thing that I think what's unique about us. And the culture, you've heard us talk about the people and the culture within Deloitte, that's also unique. And it's something that I just haven't seen anyplace else that I've worked.
Awesome. Thanks, Malcolm. So like I said, I'm going to start integrating some of the themes and questions that I'm seeing from the chat and bouncing back to some of the questions that I have prepared. So one of the themes I'm seeing in the chat and questions that I'm seeing in the chat is, where do you all work from? And then, are there remote opportunities? So let's go round robin and find out where each of you are working from and whether that or not that's remote. So Shanae, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So I'm primarily remote, and I go in because I want to see people. So that's how it works right now for me.
And you said Maryland?
I live in Maryland. Yep. But I'm in I live, so I'm from Baltimore, but I live in Bowie. So I go into our Roslyn or Arlington office pretty often.
Awesome. Alex.
Well, that's a great question because for 7 years I lived in Linthicum, Maryland. So Shanae, I'm just down the road.
Yeah.
I used to go into the Fort Meade office, but believe it or not, we have a little NSA project office there, but I was technically tied to the Arlington office. And this week I moved to Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So I'm going to be aligned to the Tampa office now. But I primarily work from home. I used to be one of those rare recruiters who went in person every day to Fort Meade and worked with those project teams. But for the past 2.5 years, I've been almost completely remote. We get together when it matters. So every once in a while I get to go travel down and meet up with some of our team members. Last month, Austin and I were able to get together twice, actually, once at Deloitte University and once down here in Florida as a team get together.
Awesome. Austin, where are you located, and are you working remote or in the office?
Yep. So I am fully remote, and I'm based out of Tampa. So same office that Alex is out of now. But yeah, fully remote, have the ability to travel. So I went to Deloitte University with Alex about a month ago to support one of our veteran events. But yeah, for the most part, I am fully remote. I have the ability to go into the Tampa office if I want to. So, everyone has that ability as well. So it's more of a hybrid model. But just for my job, yeah, I pretty much stay remote.
Awesome. Marianne, how about you?
Yeah, my role is also fully remote.
And where are you based out of?
I'm located in Maryland.
Okay. And Malcolm, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm totally remote, but I got to tell you guys, I started at Deloitte. I'm coming up on a year, and I went through the entire interview process during COVID. I took my badge ID with my iPhone. I rarely go in the office. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, and when I have to go in the office, I feel so out of place. but no, it's all good. I mean, with the tools that we have, that's one thing that enabled us to continue to collaborate and all. But I would also say that what's really important is we do things to bring our employees together. So we have events all the time that bring us together. So you do get to meet people. You do get to collaborate and interact with people in person. So what's unique about Deloitte is we offer a little bit of both. If you want to go in the office, you can go in the office. You want to work at home, you can work at home.
Awesome. I think that's answered a lot of the recurring questions that I was seeing in the chat. So let me jump back to Marianne. Marianne, since you've been at Deloitte, I think you said for about 4 years, are there any cool projects that you've worked on that come off the top of your head since you've been there?
Cool projects. So I did work at one cool project, which was at the VA. So it leveraged my public health and my law degree. I was working in labor relations, working on individuals at Quantico, for employees at Quantico. So it was mostly a lot of like policy related things for unions. So that was kind of interesting for me, especially in my legal career. It's mostly a lot of reading, so it's boring. Some people might not like reading fun, but me going to law school and reading 70 pages like in one day, I'm used to it. So for me, it was doable. So that was an interesting project. Another project that was fun, which was FDA. So we were doing policy work on, the vaccine. So, that was kind of fun. So we were in the forefront of that.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay. So I've got another question that I'm sure I saw some of these questions earlier on in the event from a variety of candidates asking about the interview experience, right? So this one, I'm going to default to Alex and Austin. So for a candidate that is interviewing for, let's say, a cloud engineering role, what is the interview process like, and the time frame for that process?
Why don't you take that one, Austin?
Yeah, sure. To start out, we start with the recruiter screening, right? So any resume that I receive, if the resume looks like the candidate's qualified for a specific role, I'll reach out, I'll screen them. Typically, it's a 30-minute conversation. From there, we'll look to set up an interview. So our interview process is really standardized and straightforward. Shanae's on the interview panel, so she can tell you the same. But we hold, again, one interview. The interview lasts an hour and a half, and it's split up into 3 separate segments. So the first segment is going to be your technical portion. So questions around technologies you use, how you use them, implementations, things like that. The next portion would be a behavioral or cultural portion. So think about why you'd want to join Deloitte, how you work with clients, things like that. And then the final portion would be a conversation with a managing director. And that's typically a blend between both technical and behavioral. So again, just one interview. Sometimes we'll have a secondary interview if not everyone's on the same page, but it's typically just that one interview. And I typically provide feedback within 24 hours. So in terms of the entire process from screening to interview feedback is less than a week, mostly.
And then another question that I saw in the chat, and I'm sure, so this is going to be a 2-part question for most likely Austin and Alex. And then I see Malcolm, you may want to chime in on this as well. But the question is around candidates are asking how can they make their resume stand out, and then any advice on them really, if they're really interested in pursuing an interview and a career at Deloitte, any advice you can give them as far as whether it's applying for multiple positions, whether it's having your resume, certain things in your resume, or even networking after this event on LinkedIn, for example. So any advice you can offer our candidates.
Will, that last point you made is really key. So it is very difficult to just search through all of Deloitte's positions globally or in the US and apply to the right one and then hope to hear feedback. So whether it's Deloitte or any other organization or any company that you think is highly sought after or larger, you have to be proactive about networking. Find yourself an advocate at the company. Right now is a really good opportunity to connect with any of us and let us be that advocate for you in your process. It doesn't mean we're just going to immediately give you the job, but what it does give you is a direct person you can email instead of just putting an application online and hoping for the best. So connect with us on LinkedIn, but with other companies or other places at Deloitte, I would advise reverse engineering LinkedIn a little bit and find the town you want, where the company is located. Find someone who's either a recruiter or coming from a similar background, maybe the same college as you, in the same skill set that you're looking to get into. Connect with them and ask questions so that you have someone at the company that's not just your sounding board for talking about the process, but they can go be an advocate for you to others. It makes all the difference in the world. Could be the difference between getting hired or not.
Excellent. Malcolm, did you want to?
Yeah, I have a question. It's a question for Alex and for Austin. You guys have seen a lot of resumes. You've seen a lot of people go through this process. What are the typical things that you've seen that just really where people have just not done as good as they could have done? Those simple tips that you might have for people so we've talked about the whole interview process, but there probably are some common things that you've seen that have made people have fallen short at. Is there any tips you have in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with the resume, for instance, right? I mean, one thing we like to see, especially as recruiters, is good job tenure, right? So not hopping jobs every 6 months if you don't have to. I mean, we understand that contracts sometimes only last 6 months, but good job tenure where you're, loyal to a specific company. And, we all recognize that at some point in your career, it's time to move on for better opportunities or whatever that looks like. But, good job tenure. Make sure your spelling's correct on the resume. I know it's a simple thing, but make sure you spell check. But the biggest thing is job tenure, and then just making sure that the resume aligns with the job that you're looking at. I mean, if I get a resume for somebody that's let's say a marketing manager, for instance, I'll probably pass that off to the marketing team, but I won't review it myself. So, just applying to jobs that you're actually qualified for. That's what I would say. Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything different.
Yeah, we'll take it to the next level, Austin, where your resume was good. You've talked to the recruiter and you go to the interview. I think about, okay, a little more than 4 hours ago, Austin and I sat on a call where the leaders in our cloud engineering practice talked about the interviews they just had. And Austin, you can tell me how many of them said this, but they kind of checked the little block on tech skills. And then we heard 1 or 2 of the interviewers say, I don't know if I can put them in front of a client. I don't know about the soft skills. I'm not sure about the communication. So my advice there would be prepared for the interview, not just with what's on your resume, but think about the way that you want to present your brand to employers. And by brand, what I mean is everyone in some way is going to ask the question, tell me a little bit about yourself, or tell me about your career. That's your opportunity to show that you are able to communicate in front of others. It should be something that you've practiced. Say it to yourself, practice it. If it's going to be an online interview on something like Zoom or HireVue, practice there so it's not awkward. Because if you are a good communicator, you have to be able to relay that to the teams you're interviewing with, or you could get a no in an interview debrief, and that would be unfortunate because it's not a representation of your skills.
Janae, I see you wanted to interject.
I did. So like Austin said, I'm on the recruiting team. And so I pride in being that I'm on the behavioral side of that is usually where I do. I don't usually do the technical, and I want to be on the behavioral. So I want to be able to see if I can put you in front of clients. Most of the time we don't realize how important it is to just talk and to talk. And we understand that interviews are nervous and it can be nerve-wracking, but it's really important to be able to convey your message, tell what you're thinking, for us to understand your thought process and be able to know that you can go and share that type of information also with a client. And that's kind of that part of what Alex was just talking about, making sure that you can talk to us so that then we know you can talk to a client, because everything that we do, we're a people environment. And so we want to make sure that you can also talk to our clients and not just provide them deliverables. It's about being able to talk to them so you can understand them, so that what we produce is what they actually want.
Yeah, and I think to add a little bit something to that is likability is so important.
It is.
That is huge, because our clients, they want to do business with people they like and have relationships with. So if you're able to talk and build a bridge with them, that leads to growing our footprint and growing us as a firm and our brand and all. So that's something that I think that we really should focus on and really practice. It is so important.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So one thing I also want to touch on, and this would be for Austin or Alex, or even maybe different members of our panel that have seen hiring on your different teams. But what experience levels are you currently hiring for? Because a lot of times people will assume that it's HBCU Connect, it's HBCU related, that it's maybe just college students or recent grads. But if you could touch on the experience levels that you're hiring for.
Sure. Yeah, I can get into that. So I'm part of experienced recruiting, which is anywhere from like 2 to 30 years of experience. So we hire within that range. Someone like Malcolm with a ton of experience, or someone like myself with maybe 2-3 years of experience. We hire a wide array of candidates. For people coming out of university or just graduating, we also have a campus side. So we have a huge team of campus recruiters that only focus on new grads. There's those opportunities as well. So, we don't segment ourselves to, a year. We hire the full gamut of individuals.
Excellent. Excellent. So I see an interesting question from one of our candidates, Desmond Witherspoon. He was extended an offer from Deloitte on the cloud engineering support team for government agencies, but couldn't take it at the time, but is interested in pursuing similar positions and wants to know how he could find those types of positions that may be on the non-government side. So are there opportunities like that on the non-government side for cloud engineers?
There are, yeah. I mean, we have a large commercial team, and Desmond and I were talking because I was actually his recruiter. So I know exactly what happened with Desmond, which was unfortunate. But yeah, Desmond, you can go on Deloitte's jobs page and search for commercial opportunities versus government. Even I can connect you with a commercial recruiter as well. But yeah, I mean, on Deloitte's job page, we have every position that's open, both on the commercial and government side.
Awesome. So I see a good question here from Austin. And that is, if you could do it all over, and this is, I'm going to pose this one to Shanae. So if you could do it all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself? And if not, what would you change? And I'm assuming that's career path.
Wow. Oh, would I do it all over again? Yes, actually I would, because I can literally say I have jumped not only around in the technical field, right? I told you my path for technically, but I've also jumped even around Deloitte. So I've done government, I've done commercial. I've done internal to Deloitte a little bit too. So building out some of our cloud managed services. I've jumped around, and I feel like every step has been something that I chose. So yes, I would do it again, just because, especially within Deloitte, because everything that I did here has been a process that I chose on how I wanted to do. I've told everybody what the thing I thought I needed to learn next, or what I wanted to do next, what my interest was, and everyone found ways to open doors for me. So that's how I jumped around, and that's why I think I would do it the same way over again.
Excellent. Thanks, Shanae, for that insight. So I see another good question from Anthony Hudson, and so I'm gonna let this one be open. It's gonna be, I think this is maybe a tough question, maybe it's an easy question, depending on your experience, right, at Deloitte, right? But I think it's a good question. So Anthony asked, as a cloud engineer and a proud HBCU graduate from Jackson State, I noticed that diversity becomes less in companies the higher you go up, in experience and levels in a company. So what is Deloitte doing to make more executive leadership teams, or make those leadership teams more diverse? So I'll leave that open-ended, but you've got another Jackson State person there.
So I guess that one falls to me.
We'll let you start off. I'll follow up after you.
I wish I could see that question. I've been responding to a lot of people through the text. So when you see me looking off, that's what I'm doing. I'm actually responding to people who've been texting me. So I would say that Deloitte is really committed toward diversity. And in fact, a gentleman by the name of Stanley Porter was on our African-American. He was on our board. So we have a number of African-Americans. We actually have they call it partner principal managing director, which is the highest level you can be. We have an African-American group there. So there's lots of things that we're doing, but let me say, and I'll make this statement up front in front of everyone, we can do more. We can do more, and we strive to do more. And the way we're doing that is making it a priority. I came in the door to Deloitte identifying things that we could do to strengthen our position with African Americans in terms of recruiting, as well as how we partner with HBCUs, as well as small minority-owned businesses. So there's a number of minority-owned African-American people of color firms that I think we could do a better job with. So I am taking ownership to get involved in a number of those things, to kind of drive that and help make it better for not just people of color, but for all. Because when you really think about it, if you do this and you do it in the right way, it just improves the ecosystem here at Deloitte for everyone that works here. And that's one of the passions that I have. So I think that to kind of summarize it, because we could go in a lot of different directions here, but we're doing things, we have things in place. We have the White House has their HBCU week that's coming up. We're taking a position in that. We're going to be there representing that. I will be there, as well as a number of other senior leaders that are people of color from Deloitte here. But we can do more, and we need help. And we're looking for people like you, smart, good people that can come in and help us kind of move the ball in that direction.
Awesome.
giving the broad view of what I've seen at Deloitte, right? So I was during the George Floyd and everything that was going on back in 2020, the firm took an approach to make sure that we had a transparency report given and to show where we are as far as our diversity and inclusion and where we were at that time, and then what our pledge was going to be in the future in our 5-year plan and 10-year plan. And so that's one thing that we made sure not only did they publicize internally to our employees, but then also externally to the world, right? So it's on our website. You can go find it. It's called the Deloitte Transparency Report, right? And it tells you where we are. It was a direct, and I keep seeing more and more internal programs that we're doing to make sure that we have more and more diverse culture across the board. Personally, being that I've been here for 11 years and seeing how and grown up, right? I've had 2 promotions since I've been here. I still know that it's hard to see it at right where I am right now, but I'm seeing everyone committed to make sure that they do the small things, right? It's not going to be the big broad strokes of paintbrush that's going to make sure everything works. It's the small steps to make sure that there's a pipeline, to make sure that there's multiple people continuing to be brought in, but then also to be advanced within the firm. And I see a commitment from everyone. And one of the other things I do in general is call people out on it, right? It's making sure that if your project doesn't look like it's supposed to, if the function isn't looking like it's supposed to, if your teams aren't look like it, then we need to talk it through and we need to hold each other accountable, and everyone's trying to hold each other accountable. I know for me personally, the way I do it, all of my deputies are either a woman or they're Black, and that's done on purpose because I want to make sure that I'm providing my stamp of how I want this to work and making sure that the next generation I'm pulling up, because that is something that I'm being evaluated on. I'm bringing up someone, I'm just choosing who I want it to be.
Excellent, excellent. So I've got a couple more questions. We've got about roughly 5 more minutes to go. And I've been taking down some questions. So I saw a question from DT, and the question is around, he knows that a lot of folks have bounced around between different departments and different roles. But a lot of times companies may see that as job hopping and consider that to be a negative. So, how's that viewed within Deloitte? And then is that something that a candidate should be concerned about explaining if they've held a variety of different roles? So I think I'll default this one to Alex or Austin.
Yeah, Will, to clarify, would that be within the same company, moving around to different positions?
Yeah, I think DT was referencing the fact that folks have done that within the company, like that.
So the short answer is no. That's not a negative. In fact, it's very much part of Deloitte's culture. So that wouldn't be looked at as negative at all. In fact, I would say if I looked at a resume and someone was in the same role at the same company for an extended period of time, that may clash with Deloitte's culture more than someone who had moved around and been promoted multiple times or took lateral positions somewhere else, because that's pretty common here too. So no, not a negative at all. The one thing we hear sometimes as negative feedback from leaders is when someone jumps from company to company to company, whether that's jumping for a little bit higher salary or jumping for promotions, right? So if they didn't get promoted at their organization and then they jumped and went a level up, and then they didn't get promoted and they jumped and went a level up, that could be viewed as negative. So moving to another company for a higher level position isn't always a positive in the application process.
Definitely good feedback. Okay, so I've got another question from Chauncey, and this one is related to cloud engineering. So he's curious about the available cloud engineering positions. Are the positions focused on Deloitte infrastructure or more so on client infrastructure?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we have a ton of positions open. Most, if not all of those, are for our clients. So as a consulting agency, we obviously support clients, and everything that we hire within GPS is to support our clients.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm looking for some more questions that I have queued up. But Mary Ann, let me loop you back into the conversation. So when you made the decision to join Deloitte, what was like the determining factor or the why when you made the decision to accept an offer from Deloitte?
What I was looking for is long-term longevity. I was actually looking for home. In my resume, I was kind of hopping from job to job. I was mostly majority in school, getting my master's, law school. And I was kind of looking for something long-term where I can grow my, career. And, after numerous conversations with, friends that have worked at Deloitte or former ex Deloitte workers, they have mentioned that, Deloitte does have great opportunities for growth and promotion. So that is the reason why I kind of went over to Deloitte.
Awesome, awesome. So to our candidates, if you got any last minute questions, rapid fire questions you'd like to drop in the chat that you'd like for me to ask, please drop those into the chat and then I'll keep an eye on that. But let me ask a cultural question. And I'm going to default this one back to Shanae. And Shanae, do you feel that you can be yourself, culturally speaking, as a diverse and female employee at Deloitte?
It's gotten easier over the years. So I feel like right now I'm at a point where, yes, I definitely can. There is a period of time where I would say I was more making sure that I was polished and that I wore my hair a certain way, I wore certain clothes and everything else. Now I come in and it's more about me just being me and then letting people ask me the questions and me giving them the answers of explaining who I am and why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. So yeah, I'm at that, we're at that point. The firm has definitely changed and is embracing way more, just because they know better, right? You know better, you ask more, the culture has changed, the climate, the world has changed. And so that's partly helping the firm to be able to be open and understand.
Excellent, excellent. So Malcolm, let me circle back to you with a question. So two-part question, Malcolm. When you were speaking and giving your keynote, you mentioned that when I asked about a day in the life, you mentioned that you write or you blog. So I don't know if that's an internal blog, internal to Deloitte, or if that's external, externally facing, because someone asked in the chat if you could drop a link to your blog.
So it is external. It is external facing. I'll have to pull it up and can I send it to you afterwards and perhaps have you send it out afterwards?
Sure,
but
sure.
Yeah, it is external. But I actually want to touch on something, that last question.
Sure, sure.
It's really interesting how I've had a long career and seeing how the world has changed and corporate America has changed. I mean, when I started, it was black suits and gray suits, and you had to wear wingtip shoes, and you couldn't have hair on your face. It was just so different. And seeing where we started and where we are to now, where we are today, I'm just really excited about the future. And I think that Deloitte is really open to just evolving and changing, and that's probably been the core to our success, is our ability to see and recognize the change and changing for good in the world in which we live today.
I think that was a great way to kind of round out our panel discussion right there. So we've got about a minute left. So I just wanted to kind of close things out. Austin, I'll defer to you if you have any, recommendations to our candidates, or if you'd like to set any expectations. So to our candidates, we've collected your resume as a part of you signing up to attend this event. We are going to share your resumes with Austin and Alex and the team there at Deloitte. So I'm sure they'll be combing over the resumes and pulling some resumes from folks where there may be an immediate need and match with your skill set. But then also, I'm sure we welcome you to apply for careers on Deloitte's career website, which is up on the screen. But Austin, if there was anything else you might want to add as far as recommendations or expectations for the candidates.
Yeah, I mean, first, again, thanks to everyone who's joined this event. Hopefully it's been beneficial for all our participants. And yeah, I mean, the best way, obviously, Will's going to send all your information out. So we'll have the ability to review every resume that gets sent out. If it's not a fit for cloud, we'll be able to send it to about 500 recruiters within our GPS sector that could have potential opportunities. Outside of that, you can go on Deloitte's jobs page, deloitte.com/careers. And then the other best way is connect with us on LinkedIn. I know Alex mentioned it earlier, but networking is a huge thing in recruiting, and especially here at Deloitte. So connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Alex, all the speakers. We'll make sure you're in good hands.
Awesome, awesome. So like I said, you all are in the right place at the right time. At our last event, lots of people got hired from that event. So definitely follow up. Not only make sure we have your latest resume by going to hbcuconnect.com/Deloitte, but also going out and being proactive and submitting your resume to careers of interest on Deloitte's website, which you can see right here on the screen and in the chat. And then, of course, following up on LinkedIn with the, looking up the folks here that have joined the call. So we really thank you all. Without you all coming to these events, they would not be possible. So not only do I want to thank the Deloitte team for taking the time out to volunteer to share your experiences, but then also I'd like to thank the candidates. And to our candidates, for those of you guys that came dressed to impress, let me take down my share. Let's get a screenshot and capture the moment and get everyone's smiling face. So if you want to turn, if you're in a good place where you can turn on your camera, let's go ahead and get a screenshot of everyone that's able to turn on their camera. Let me change the view here, put it in gallery mode. If you'd like to go ahead and turn on your camera, let's get a capture real quick of all of your smiling faces. I appreciate you all joining us. This has been an awesome evening of learning and engagement. But all right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Have a couple pictures here. All right, cheese. Okay, folks. All right, appreciate you all. Definitely follow up with Deloitte. This is an awesome company. Like I said, we've done in-person events as well with Deloitte, and I was in awe of how many not only HBCU grads that they had that worked at Deloitte that came to support the event, but also African American, Latinx employees that were there representing the company and gainfully and happily employed at Deloitte. So you're in the right place at the right time to take advantage. All right, so everyone, enjoy your evening and best of luck to you. So take care. I'll follow up via email.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.